Before anything else, imagine this: a quiet space, no noise, no pressure, just a moment where heaven is listening. Grace for generations, where broken cycles end and new beginnings rise, where ancient truths meet real-life battles, where your faith is not just something you believe, but something you experience. Now let me ask you something. What if one short prayer, just a few words, could shift the direction of your entire life? Not slowly, not someday, but suddenly. What if there is a prayer hidden in Scripture that doesn't just comfort you, but authorizes you? A prayer that doesn't just ask, but activates? And what if most people have read it, but never truly entered it? Because something happens when you don't just say the Prayer of Jabez, but you understand it, believe it, and step into it. Everything begins to change. Because this prayer is not passive, it is bold, it is disruptive, it is transformational. And if you're feeling stuck right now, limited, delayed, overlooked, this is exactly where this prayer begins to work. There is a moment in Scripture that almost feels too brief to carry such power. A man appears, his name is Jabez, and in just a few lines, everything about his life shifts. But here is what most people miss. Jabez was not born into advantage. He was born into pain. His very name was tied to sorrow. His identity was shaped by limitation before he even had a chance to fight it. And yet, he refused to accept the label that life gave him. He refused to let his beginning define his ending. So instead of shrinking, instead of adjusting to struggle, instead of explaining away his pain, he did something uncommon. He prayed differently. Not weak, not vague, not apologetic. He prayed with clarity, with authority, with expectation. And that's where everything starts to shift. Not just for him, but for you. Because there are moments in life when quiet faith is not enough. There are seasons where you don't just need comfort, you need expansion. Where you don't just need survival, you need transformation. Where something inside you begins to say, there has to be more than this. More than the struggle you keep repeating. More than the doors that keep closing. More than the limitations that feel like they're written into your life. And this is where the Prayer of Jabez becomes more than words. It becomes a turning point. Because Jabez didn't ask for small relief. He asked for increase. He didn't say, help me manage what I have. He said, enlarge my territory. That is not a safe prayer. That is a bold request to step into something bigger than your current capacity. And here is where many people hesitate. Because expansion sounds good, until it requires change. Until it stretches you beyond what feels comfortable. Until it calls you out of familiar limitations. But the truth is, your current space cannot contain your next level. And Jabez understood something powerful. If God does not expand you, life will confine you. So he prayed for enlargement, not just physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally. He prayed for capacity. And this is where it connects to your life right now. Because maybe you've been feeling pressure lately. Pressure in your mind, pressure in your finances, pressure in your relationships, pressure that feels like everything is tightening instead of opening. But what if that pressure is not just resistance? What if it's the sign that your current space is too small for who you're becoming? What if you're not being blocked? You're being prepared for expansion? Because expansion always feels like pressure before it feels like freedom. And the Prayer of Jabez doesn't run from that. It steps directly into it. Then he says something even deeper. That your hand would be with me. This is where the balance comes in. Because expansion without God's presence becomes chaos. More opportunities, but no direction. More doors, but no wisdom. More access, but no covering. And Jabez understood, I don't just need more. I need God in the more. Because the same blessing that lifts one person can overwhelm another. The difference is not the opportunity, it is the presence. So he prayed for alignment, for divine guidance, for supernatural covering, for a hand that doesn't just open doors, but sustains you inside them. And maybe this is exactly where you are right now. You've been asking for change, asking for breakthrough, asking for something new. But deep inside, there's also a quiet fear. What if I'm not ready? What if I step into something bigger and lose control? What if I can't handle what I'm asking for? And that's why this prayer is complete. Because it doesn't just ask for expansion. It asks for God's hand to remain, not visit, not appear temporarily. Remain, consistency, covering, guidance. And then comes the part that many people overlook, but it might be the most important. Keep me from evil one, that I may not cause pain. Notice this carefully. He didn't just ask to be protected from harm. He asked to be transformed so that he would not become the source of harm. Because true elevation is not just about what you receive. It's about what you carry. It's about your heart. It's about your alignment. It's about whether your growth produces peace or creates damage. And Jabez knew, I don't just want to rise. I want to rise right. Because it's possible to gain everything and still lose your peace, to step into new levels, but carry old patterns, to increase externally, but remain unchanged internally. And this is where the prayer becomes deeply personal, because now it's not just about what God gives you, it's about who you become when He does. So let me bring this directly to you. What happens when you truly pray the prayer of Jabez? Not casually, not occasionally, but intentionally. You begin to break agreement with limitation. You stop shrinking your expectations. You start asking boldly again, not from arrogance, but from identity. You begin to see that your life is not meant to stay confined to the patterns you inherited, that your story is not locked into your past, that your current situation is not your final position. And something inside you begins to shift. You stop thinking in survival mode. You start thinking in expansion. You stop waiting for permission. You start stepping into authority. And slowly, then suddenly, things begin to open. Ideas begin to come. Connections begin to align. Doors you didn't expect begin to appear. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer praying small. And as this begins to happen, you realize something powerful. This prayer is not magic. It is alignment. Alignment with a God who is not limited by your circumstances. Alignment with a purpose that is bigger than your current environment. Alignment with a future that has been waiting for you to step into it. But here's the question. Are you ready for what happens next? Because once you start praying like this, you can't go back to thinking small. Once you ask for expansion, you have to be willing to grow. Once you invite God's hand, you have to trust His direction, even when it stretches you. And that's where we're going next. Because this is not just a prayer you say, it's a life you step into. And in the next moment, we move from understanding into activation. And now, this is where everything begins to shift from understanding into activation. Because hearing about the prayer of Jabez is one thing, but stepping into it is something else entirely. Let me ask you something honestly. What have you been tolerating that you were never meant to carry? That quiet limitation, that repeated delay, that pattern that keeps showing up in different forms. You've prayed before, you've believed before, but something still feels restricted. And this is where the difference comes in. Because Jabez didn't pray from routine, he prayed from a place of decision. A decision that said, I will not remain where life placed me. And this is the moment I want you to step into right now. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because there is a kind of prayer that shifts things gradually, and there is a kind of prayer that marks a turning point. This is the second kind. So don't just read this. Engage with it. Let it become your voice. Let it come from a real place inside you. Even if your voice is quiet, even if your heart feels tired, that's enough. Because this is not about performance. It's about alignment. So right now, slow down, breathe, and begin to step into this. Father, I refuse to stay confined to what has limited me. I will not accept cycles that keep repeating without change. Every boundary that has been placed around my life, seen or unseen, that does not align with your will, I break agreement with it now. Enlarge my territory, stretch my capacity, expand my thinking, expand my opportunities, expand my influence. Let doors begin to open that no man can shut. Let connections begin to align that I could not force on my own. Where I have been overlooked, let me now be remembered. Where I have been delayed, let there be movement. Where I have been restricted, let there be release. Not by chance, but by your hand. Because I don't just want more, I want you in the more. Let your hand be with me, not occasionally, but consistently. Guide my decisions, correct my steps, interrupt every path that would lead me into confusion. If I begin to move in the wrong direction, pull me back. If I hesitate when I should move, push me forward. Let your presence go ahead of me. Into rooms I have not entered yet, into conversations I have not had yet, into opportunities I cannot yet see. Let your hand make a way where there is no visible way. And now, I ask for something deeper. Keep me from evil, not just external attacks, but internal patterns. Anything in me that could sabotage what you are about to do, remove it. Any mindset that keeps me small, break it. Any fear that keeps me silent, silence it. Any habit that pulls me backward, disconnect me from it. I refuse to rise and remain the same. Transform me. Renew my mind. Strengthen my spirit. Let me not carry pain into my next level. Let me not become what I once prayed against. Let my growth produce peace. Let my increase produce impact. Let my life reflect your hand. And now, I declare this boldly. I am stepping out of limitation. I am stepping into expansion. I am stepping into alignment. What was closed is opening. What was delayed is moving. What was hidden is being revealed. I will not shrink back. I will not doubt the shift. I will not speak against what you are building in my life. From this moment, I walk differently. I think differently. I expect differently. Because something has shifted. Something has been activated. Something has begun. In Jesus' name, amen. Now stay here for a moment, because this is important. After this kind of prayer, things don't always change in the way you expect. Sometimes, the first sign is not ease, it's movement. You may feel stretching. You may feel discomfort. You may feel like things are being rearranged. And that's where many people misunderstand the process. They think something is going wrong, when in reality, everything is being repositioned. Because expansion always requires adjustment, new thinking, new habits, new decisions. And here's what I need you to understand deeply. When you pray for enlarged territory, God will not just give you space. He will grow you into the kind of person who can sustain it. That means you may be pushed to take steps you've been avoiding. You may be called to release things you've been holding on to. You may be led into opportunities that feel bigger than your current confidence. But this is not pressure to break you. This is pressure to shape you. And if you don't quit in that moment, you will begin to see it. Clarity where there was confusion, favor where there was resistance, peace where there was anxiety. Not because everything around you is perfect, but because something inside you has changed. And when the inside shifts, the outside begins to follow. So watch closely in the coming days. Pay attention to what begins to open. Pay attention to what begins to shift. Pay attention to what no longer fits who you are becoming. Because this is not just a prayer you prayed. This is a line you crossed. And once you cross this line, you don't go back to thinking small. You don't go back to settling. You don't go back to doubting what God can do through your life. Because now, you've asked for more, and heaven has heard you. But here's the deeper question. What will you do with what begins to come? Because expansion is not the end. It's the beginning of responsibility. It's the beginning of stewardship. It's the beginning of walking in something that requires faith at a higher level. And in the next part, we go even deeper into what happens after the prayer is answered and how to walk in it without losing it. Because many people pray for increase, but very few sustain it. And what you're stepping into must be protected, guided, and carried the right way. So stay with me, because the next step may be the one that determines everything. Now, this is the part most people never talk about. Not the prayer, not the moment of breakthrough, but what happens after things begin to shift. Because it's one thing to ask God for expansion. It's another thing to walk in it without losing it. And this is where many people quietly fall back into old patterns. Not because the prayer didn't work, but because they didn't recognize the season they had entered. So listen carefully. When God begins to answer a bold prayer like this, your life doesn't just get bigger, it gets different. Different demands, different responsibilities, different decisions. And if you try to carry new territory with an old mindset, you will feel overwhelmed. Not because the blessing is wrong, but because the alignment is incomplete. This is why Jabez didn't stop at asking. His prayer reveals something deeper, a posture, a way of living that stays connected to the source. Because what God gives, only God can sustain. So what happens next in your life will not be random. It will be intentional. And you have to move intentionally with it. Because once expansion begins, 3 things will start happening almost immediately. First, you will notice a separation. Not always loud, not always dramatic, but real. Things you once tolerated will start to feel heavy. Places you once fit into will start to feel too small. Conversations that once felt normal will begin to drain you. And this can feel confusing at first, because you'll wonder, why doesn't this feel right anymore? It's because you're not the same. Growth creates distance, not from people out of pride, but from patterns out of purpose. And this is where you must be careful. Because the temptation will be to go back to what is familiar, just to feel comfortable again. But comfort is not your calling anymore. Expansion requires separation. And if you resist that, you will slow down what God has already started. So when something no longer fits, don't force it. Release it. Second, you will experience increased sensitivity, not weakness, sensitivity. Your awareness will sharpen. You'll begin to notice things you ignored before. Small decisions will feel more significant. Your intuition will become clearer. Your spirit will start responding faster to what is right and what is not. And this is a gift. Because when God's hand is with you, He doesn't just guide you through big moments. He leads you through small ones. But here's the challenge. You must listen. Not everything that looks good is right for you. Not every open door is your door. And not every opportunity is aligned with your assignment. So don't rush. Discern. Because in a season of expansion, wrong alignment costs more, but right alignment multiplies faster. And third, you will be tested, not to destroy you, but to confirm you. Because increase reveals character, opportunities reveal discipline, access reveals integrity, and this is where many people lose what they prayed for. Not because they weren't blessed, but because they weren't prepared to carry it. So the test may come like this. You're given an opportunity, but it requires consistency. You're given access, but it requires humility. You're given growth, but it requires patience. And in those moments, your response determines your next level. Will you stay disciplined when no one is watching? Will you stay grounded when things begin to rise? Will you stay aligned when distractions appear? Because expansion without discipline collapses. Expansion without humility corrupts. Expansion without alignment confuses. But when you stay anchored, something powerful happens. You don't just receive the blessing, you become stable inside it. And this is the level many people never reach. They experience moments, but not sustainability. But you're not stepping into a moment. You're stepping into a lifestyle, a life where your thinking is elevated. Your decisions are intentional. Your alignment is consistent. And now, let's go even deeper. Because there is one final shift that changes everything. Gratitude. Not surface-level gratitude, but anchored gratitude. Because when God begins to move in your life, it's easy to focus on what's next. The next level, the next door, the next breakthrough. But if you don't pause to recognize what has already shifted, you will always feel like something is missing. And that's how people lose peace in the middle of progress. So train yourself to see it. The small shifts, the quiet doors, the subtle changes, the peace that came where anxiety used to live, the clarity that replaced confusion, the strength that showed up when you thought you had none. That's not random. That's evidence. And when you recognize it, you stay grounded. You stay connected. You stay aligned. Because gratitude protects what pride can destroy. And now, I want to leave you with this. What happens when you truly pray the prayer of Jabez? Your life doesn't just improve, it repositions. You move from limitation to expansion, from confusion to clarity, from restriction to alignment. Not instantly perfect, but undeniably shifting. And now the question is no longer, will God move? Because He already has. The real question is, will you stay aligned with what He has started? Will you continue to walk like someone whose territory is expanding? Will you think like someone whose life is no longer confined? Will you protect what has been activated? Because what you just stepped into is not small. It is not temporary. It is not accidental. It is a new level of living. And if you remain consistent, if you remain aligned, if you remain connected, you will look back and realize something powerful. You didn't just pray a prayer, you crossed into a different life. So don't go back. Don't shrink. Don't doubt the shift. Walk it out, live it out, and expect more. Because this is only the beginning, and the next chapter of your life is already responding to the prayer you just prayed.